And welcome. You are listening to and hopefully even watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's the winter solstice, if you can believe it. 12/21/2020. And it's kind of an interesting numerological formation because you got the month 12 and then the opposite of that, the 21, and then 2020. If it means anything, I'd love to hear from you. Let us know, kl@kerrylutz.com. But we do know that there's more insanity in store. It seems like that's the only thing that's never in short supply. Certainly, people's sanity, your tolerance for the powers that be, and all these other great things, man. I don't know about you, but I've had enough. Someone who never gets enough, our good friend John Rubino. And John, we're in the everything is insane market, right?
Hey, Carrie. Yeah, you can tell that story in charts right now if you want to, because there are so many amazing charts that are out there where it shows the money supply going straight up and stock valuations at all-time highs and labor force participation at a 30-year low. It just goes on and on. There are things that that you look at them and think, oh my God, that's got to be a chaotic world that's depicting, right? Meanwhile, the confidence people have that their stocks are going to go up is also at an all-time high. People are pretty confident that they're going to continue to make money in this world, and it's baffling to me. Oh, and the people buying houses, they think this is a good time to buy a house, despite the fact that it's the highest price ever. And all this other stuff is going on. Yeah.
So housing prices kind of paralleling money supply. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So I have a theory here, John, and that is the group perception, the masses, what they sense, even though they don't know what they're sensing, and even though they can't put it into words. I think a lot of you out there are thinking, hey, the money supply, the value of money is going to go down. And the ultimate hedge for that in the past, going back to World War I, John, the ultimate hedge for that, besides gold, precious metals, Bitcoin, whatever, which we didn't have until recently, was putting money into your home. Because effectively, your home was an inflationary arbitrage, and it enabled you to, because as we all know, real estate prices, John, always go up, right? They never go down, kind of like the stock market in that respect. But because of the leverage, you can put down 5, 10, 20% on your home, and you pay it back in depreciated dollars, and the value goes up because everyone knows that the purchasing power of your currency is going down the tubes. So I think there's an unconscious realization, John, that many of you out there feel, but you can't really articulate, that the currency is going to hell and a house might not be a bad thing to own in such a case.
Well, that's the crack up boom that we've been talking about for so long, where people pay any price to get real stuff because they don't trust the currency. So as soon as they get their paycheck, they go out and buy, well, like you said, a house or gold and silver or farmland or anything that governments can't make more of. So with price increases spreading now throughout the economy. Previously, it was just stocks and bonds, and then it was stocks, bonds, and trophy real estate. And now it's stocks, bonds, trophy real estate, regular housing, and then all kinds of industrial commodities, all going up dramatically. So the evidence of inflation is broadening way out. So, it could be we're so used to not thinking in these terms, even though we theorize in these terms. But it could be that this is the beginning of this thing that we've been talking about for such a long time, where prices just go up irrationally in a lot of different areas of the economy because people don't want to hold their cash anymore. They don't trust their currency, so they're buying stuff. And that's one of the few things that could explain what's happening with houses or with stocks or with bonds. There's just so much money sloshing around out there. People have more than they need in a lot of cases, or they have access to a lot of credit in a lot of cases. And so they're going for real stuff. But, you know, if this is the end, all I can say about that is that it's about damn time. You know, it should have happened a long time ago.
So,
And if it is now, you know, it's, oh, yeah. And Bitcoin, don't forget,
yes,
through the roof. It's up to like $24,000 per coin now.
mhm.
Remember about, what was that, like 3 years ago that we were all over Bitcoin for a while? There were, you know, you and I wrote a white paper on it. And,
September of 2017, November, right around then. We're going to have to update that paper. So if you want to get your complimentary copy of our Bitcoin white paper, please send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. If you're a subscriber already, you'll get a copy of it. We need to update it because I think the recent movements are relevant. So, John, did you watch gold? Like, I just happened to be up at 3 in the morning yesterday. All right, don't ask why. It was a total, complete act of stupidity on my part, and I had to finish a project. You know how it is. Then you could go sleep for 2 days. That's the beauty of the world that we inhabit. But gold was up close to $40 the ounce. Silver was up $1.55. I said, "Oh, tomorrow is going to be a great day. I can't wait to look at my stocks when I get up. I'm such a genius. Life is good." And then I wake up and gold is down $11 and silver is only up 50 cents. Right now, as we're talking, uh, gold is up 20 cents the ounce, silver is up 55 cents the ounce, which in itself is a very unusual occurrence. You got any opinions about this?
well, my opinion is that's why you never look at the futures market in the middle of the night, because crazy things will happen. It'll get you excited or terrified. You'll lose sleep. You'll feel bad the next day. And then the next day turns out to be normal. You know, whatever crazy thing was going on out there somehow gets washed out by the time the US markets open. You know, kind of what I think happened this time is that, you know, gold and silver caught a big bid because, you know, we got the stimulus plan done and the system was going to be flooded with new money, et cetera, et cetera. But then people kind of had some time to think about how inadequate the stimulus plan that they just passed, or that they will soon pass, is, and that it's not going to really help anything. And that, so we're kind of back where we started, desperately in need of new liquidity. And so the stock market tanked this morning, and that pulled down gold and silver to an extent, which is, you know, again, I've repeated this a few times on this show, but that's a game that the markets play, where they want a certain amount of new liquidity, and if they don't get it, they tank, and then the government caves and gives it to them. So here the government gave them something, and now the markets are saying, that's not enough, which it isn't. You know, $900 billion, that covers maybe a third of the state and local budget problems that we have. And that's it. You know, everything else is, and what was it, $600 per person
Yeah.
in direct payments. I'm not sure what they think people are going to do with that, but if you're today trying to decide whether to feed your kids or pay the rent, $600 gets you through like a week, and that's it. And then you're right back where you started. So
The Robin Hood effect. All that money for the millennials, stimulus money, is going into their portfolios to help pick the market's next set of winners, regardless how pathetic these companies might be. And they'll probably go into cryptocurrency futures and into cryptocurrency ETFs. That's what you do with stimulus money, right? You don't use it to eat or anything. At least the millennials aren't concerned with such trivialities, I think.
well, you know, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like they have a lot of free cash from the government, but you know, it's hard to imagine that $1,200 and then 600, so that's $1,800 in a year actually gives you extra money to play the stock market with, you know, unless you have some other big source of income. So it could be all the baby boomer parents are supporting their millennial kids right now by drawing down on their savings. I don't know. I don't know how that dynamic works, because it doesn't seem like the government handed out enough money to allow people to do basically optional things like play the stock market. But who knows? You know, the crypto thing is interesting though, because Bitcoin took off. And I asked a friend who's a really hardcore Bitcoin guy what he thought of, because my idea of the dynamic in cryptos was that, well, if Bitcoin goes up, then everybody just cashes out of Bitcoin and buys Ethereum or Litecoin or something like that.
Right.
So that there's no way for one crypto to take off, because that just creates an arbitrage with all the other ones that didn't take off, right? And he said, no, the Bitcoin is sucking all the oxygen out of the crypto space, and it's basically going to just subsume all these other coins. The rest of them aren't going to matter, and in the end, Bitcoin will stand alone as its own asset class, and it'll suck the market cap out of gold, out of the dollar, and it'll be $1 million a coin. So I went and looked to see what the other cryptos were doing too. And the big name, lesser cryptos are going up just as fast as Bitcoin right now. So that dynamic that he's describing isn't happening yet.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is up, but so is Ethereum and Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and a bunch of the other ones. So it's starting to look like a normal market, a normal ecosystem where you've got some big players and you've got some small players, and there's arbitrage between them. Like, in the gold mining sector, if Newmont goes way up, you cash out your Newmont and then you buy some mid-tiers or some juniors, right? Because you want the big capital gains from the little guys, because Newmont's not going to quadruple again if it did that once. And I think the same dynamic may be at play in cryptos. And I just noticed that there's, besides the Grayscale ETF, where you can buy Bitcoin by just buying a stock, there's one for Ethereum too. So you can buy other cryptos pretty easily now.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, the market has developed there, and some see value in it. I guess call me a traditionalist. I don't know. I see the value in it. But it seems that the volatility maybe isn't for people our age, John. Maybe it's for people a little younger than us, maybe, you think?
Well, I think as a general rule, baby boomers should not be doing much on social media in general. And they probably shouldn't be messing around with cryptocurrencies, because, we went the first 50 years of our lives without those things existing. And it's really hard to become an expert in some new technical thing like that if you have to start in your 50s trying to figure it out. So, I hired my millennial son to be my social media manager on dollarcollapse.com, because that stuff just baffles me. And he's like, oh, yeah, you just do this and you do that. He's been on social media since there was social media, so he knows how it all works. And I think the younger generation is better suited for cryptos for the same reason. It's new stuff to learn, and we really don't want to learn all that much new stuff. That's why I bought some Bitcoin not too long ago, because it came in an ETF form, which I understand. I know how to do that. So now I own some Bitcoin and some Ethereum.
Oh, good for you.
You're kind of right. It's not clear what cryptos are yet, because
well, that's what we said in our paper. In our paper, we said that it's an asset. It's not a currency. The whole terming it a currency is just so misleading. This reminds me, like, you and I, we actually know what we're doing maybe some of the time in this investment business. That reminds me of the guy who goes to Vegas with his wife, and he's like watching her lose like $200 in blackjack and really upset. Say, how could you do that? You're losing all this money. And she goes, well, you lost $5,000. I said, yeah, but I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. That's one of the things you learn in life, is kind of to stick to the things where you actually do know what you're doing. You might still lose, but you know why you lost, and that's an important part of the process. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just still have yet to figure out how Bitcoin is even an asset. I mean, it may be, but it's just something that is an algorithm that people choose to pay money for. So why can't there be 1,000 Bitcoin clones that have the same algorithmically limited supply? And why wouldn't they have the same utility? So it might just be a first mover advantage kind of thing, where Bitcoin is what we focused on in that conceptual space. So that's the thing that, if we choose to buy a store of value or an asset in that space, that's what we're going to buy because that's the one we know. But I don't really see the advantage that it has over other things with similar technology. But again, see, that's a baby boomer talking. You know, it could just be that we're like the generals in World War I who still thought it was a good idea to send people on horseback into machine gun emplacements and stuff, just because that's what we learned and that's what used to work. So, so I'm not 100% sure that I actually understand the concept yet.
Yeah, well, the one thing it's easy to understand is people believe it has value and they're willing to exchange value for it. So it makes it valuable right there, whether or not there is a intrinsic or esoteric inherent value in it almost doesn't matter. And therefore, like Charles Nenner says, it trades totally on emotion. And you can catch these emotional waves and just ride them. And, you know, the good thing here is it's actually going up slower than it did last time because so many people got burned on it. You know, it's like that hot stock, that hot mining stock you just had to have 5 years ago. It tanked. You're still holding shares of it, but you don't even look at it in your account to see what it's quoted. And then one day you kind of wake up and it's like, stock's worth some money. How did that happen?
You're thinking of Oriana, aren't you?
Arcana, which
Or Arcana, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stocks, a great hold, and probably heading higher. But I remember,
But that's one of my biggest losers, though. That's what's so funny about it, because I bought it way before you did. So I lost a lot of money on it. You bought it at the right time and you're making money. So timing is everything.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember one time, like, guy who worked for me, Bob, and he dabbled in the market and he had a whole bunch of losers in his portfolio. And one day he like picks up the Wall Street Journal and sees that this one loser, like that he had for like 15 years, couldn't even remember the name of the company, was getting bought out. And he made like a tenfold return, but it took 10 years or 15 years to do it. So these things do happen. You know the old saw on Wall Street, John, there's nothing worse than being right at the wrong time.
Oh, I totally hear that. Yeah.
So hey, New York is heading in the right direction. They're banning all indoor dining. Comrade de Blasio is just having the best time. Killer Cuomo is just ecstatic. He gets to put more small businesses out. It's cold there now. They had snow. You know, they had all of these makeshift like dugouts all over the city, but now it's too cold for the dugouts unless you're going to risk having heat lamps there and burning the place down, you know?
Yeah. The next election in New York will be interesting to see if you can win without getting a single vote from anybody in the restaurant industry. Because, you know, the restaurant guys are irate about this. Yeah. You know, you know, because other things are allowed to happen indoors, including big parties that these politicians go to, right?
Yeah. Right. Do as I say, not as I do. Strip clubs. Somehow strip clubs are an essential service.
Is that right? Strip clubs are open and restaurants can't serve food?
Abortion clinics, that's necessary. All of these things that make absolutely no sense. And of course, if you're a big box retailer, we can't shut them down, you know, but small mom and pop store to the wind. You know, I read a statistic, John, in Michigan, 38% of the small businesses have permanently shuttered. And there's recall efforts on in California to get rid of Gavin Newsom, and I think to get rid of the mayor of LA. There's a recall effort to get rid of the governor of Michigan, Ava Braun Whitmer. You know, she just gets off on this, and there's no rational explanation for any limitations they put in. It's like, oh well, COVID's back. Like, okay, 1.5% of the cases are contracted in restaurants and in stores. All right, virtually no cases are contracted in the outdoors. And the other thing that the big stink is about, and nobody can seem to make up their minds, is asymptomatic contraction, whether or not, if you have the disease but you're asymptomatic, whether you can pass it on to others. don't you think it'd be like really helpful to know if that was the case? But if it wasn't the case, then what are we doing? Because if you're sick, stay inside. I think my mother told me that like 60 years ago. If you don't feel good, don't go to school. And I never felt good enough to go to school. It could be avoided. And now they don't even have to go to school anymore, John. I mean, what is going to be left after these politicians get done destroying everything besides the Great Reset?
Well, see, this is why that $900 billion stimulus thing is being panned so badly by the markets right now, because it's totally inadequate to offset what you just outlined there. You know, if 1/3 of the small businesses in the country are dying and half the restaurants are going out of business, you know, some little PPP loan and a few hundred extra bucks in the pockets of your customers will not save you. You know, that might get you through 2 weeks or something, but it doesn't get you through the next 6 months, which is what, you know, has to happen really, because we're going to stay on lockdown for a while, apparently, while the vaccine thing works itself out. And then we find out if the vaccine does anything. And, you know, there's no guarantee that this stuff works yet, because so far it's been kind of a comedy of errors, right? Everything we've done hasn't worked. So we can't automatically assume that the whole vaccine thing is any kind of a solution. So we don't know whether life is going to be back to normal by year end 2021. In fact, it probably won't be. So the stimulus plan is just the second of a bunch, right? They're either going to have to do a monthly version of this $900 billion thing, or they're going to have to do some, in one fell swoop, some $5 trillion. Everybody gets $5,000 and everybody's corporate debt is wiped out and all the student loans are wiped out. You know, they're going to have to do something like that at once just to get it over with, which would kind of be a financial reset in its own right there, right? If we just, well, oh, wait, what was the term for that? Oh, jubilee. It'll be like a debt jubilee. Maybe we have to do something like that where we just wipe out everybody's debt, take it all on the federal balance sheet, and then hope that the currency doesn't collapse because we took all that debt on the government's balance sheet. So that kind of leap of faith is out there in some form, either a series of new stimulus plans or one gigantic one. So that's what makes 2021 such an interesting prospect, because this is totally uncharted territory. And because of that, it's totally the kind of place where you want to be big in precious metals, because they get you through uncharted territory, and very few other things do.
Oh, completely. You just look in what's going on in the world. If you don't have any kind of insurance policy, boy, meaning precious metals, Bitcoin, whatever it might be, you could be in a world of hurt. Then you're relying on government handouts, crumbs, and Nancy Pelosi doesn't see the benefit of it anyway for you to be getting your official crumbs from the government. And this is a huge problem, and nobody seems too anxious to deal with it.
Yeah, no, it's going to give us a lot of material to talk about, but and make gold bugs a lot of money. But I think those are among the only upsides of what's coming, because for most normal people, this has got to be terrible right now and terrifying going forward, because there really isn't any kind of a solution to this. Did you see the video of the nurse who got her vaccination? Then she was up at a podium talking to reporters about, how we've turned the corner and how great everything is. And she passes out. She just keels over. So yeah, that is kind of emblematic of this whole thing, that we keep thinking we've got this under control, and we really don't. And we keep doing things that we hope will fix things, and they either make things worse or they have no positive impact at all. And that doesn't seem to be ending. That seems to be very possibly the story of next year.
So true. Yeah, it's really sad. Well, I don't know what they're going to do about it. Hopefully they're going to find something. Certainly the new administration has no ideas that haven't been done before. I guess it just comes down to printing money and hoping for the best, which is really not an economic policy that's going to work. Hey, we'd be remiss if we didn't cover one other topic. was Kevin, one of the FSN community members, brought this to my attention. I can't get to the bottom of the story yet, but it appears that eBay has revised its payment management system so they can make even more money off of you. The deal is like you pay like 10% value fee for every item you sell. And then when you use a payment method, you would pay an additional 3%. And so your cost is basically like 12%. Now eBay's kind of monopolized this payment processing. So they're going to really do you guys a solid out there and cut the amount of their fees by 0.5%, which if it's $100, you will save an additional 50 cents. But what's really problematical, and there's a link in the show notes here, is that it appears that bullion dealers, as well as people who sell adult-oriented materials, shall we say, and people selling automobiles, it looks like if you sell paper currency, there seems to be an exception that if you get your coin certified, then you can sell it there by an eBay-approved certifier or a coin grader. But what is the point of grading bullion coins? And they haven't established that there's any greater fraud. I haven't heard about people getting fake coins through eBay. I've at one time back in after the first crash we had 10 years ago, I was buying a significant amount through eBay. It was a good deal, but now at 13% of the cost, you're much better off going to Miles Franklin.
Yeah, I actually accidentally bought a gold coin on eBay one time. That's a longer story, but I did. And, it worked out fine. It looks like a real coin, and the price was consistent with what it should have been and everything. But, any kind of online purchases, you do have to be kind of careful about. And gold coins are an extreme example of that, because they're pretty easy to fake in a picture. But I don't know any more about this than that on eBay. But generally, what happens when things get crazier and crazier in a cycle, and this is a super cycle right now, governments try to clamp down one way or another on things that they see as a threat. So they make it harder to buy gold and silver in a lot of cases. And this just might be an example of that, is the system trying to restrain people from getting out of their cash and into real assets. And if so, like you said, just go to Miles Franklin or some other highly regarded gold dealer. Birch Gold is somebody I've had a relationship with for a long time, and they seem totally legit.
Hey, well, it's just interesting because eBay, so many things they sell more of on their marketplace than any place else. Pre-owned luxury watches, eBay has got the market cornered on it, and their fees keep going up and up, although they've hit the limit. So that's why they've done this payment processing thing. But the fact is that eBay stands behind every transaction on the platform, all right, except if it's a new seller. So you have to be wary if they have very limited feedback. And you look, eBay tells you on the screen whether or not they're behind it. So that guarantee could actually be better than dealing with some of the less reputable bullion dealers out there who we've seen get led away in handcuffs. You know who they are, John, right? So, hey, it's always caveat emptor, because with gold, you got to send them your money and then they send you the gold. Everyone works that way. They're not going to send you the gold and say, oh, would you please pay us now? That ain't happening. So that's always the danger, but maybe it's a safer portal on eBay. But we're going to have to see after the first of the year, when they've fully implemented their new payment management system, whether or not they're still going to sell bullion. I got to believe if they're not the largest bullion marketplace, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the country, in the world, they're up there. Certainly retail, because you could buy like 1/10 of an ounce of gold or a half, or like I bought some silver coins not too long ago, all that stuff. Anyways, that is it for today. Make sure you go look at John's site, dollarcollapse.com. Sign up for his newsletter, sign up for ours, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Send us emails to kl@kerrylutz.com. Do you think the market's going up, or are you betting on Bitcoin and gold? And don't forget, if you want to buy some gold or some silver, just go over to milesfranklin.com, or you can send off an email to Andy Schechtman, the owner, andy@milesfranklin.com. John, we will pick up next week, same place.
Okay, see you, Kerry.